Welcome back to Modern Coaches, guys, on a chilly December day. We have kind of a busy day today. We got oil change on the Lexus, on the Audi. If you guys follow Lily on her Facebook, you would have noticed that we went up to Leavenworth in this bad boy. We figured we could give it a shot. We took the boys and we'd see how well the new tires and wheel package goes along with it. We'll show you guys a little more in depth so you guys can see what we got. We need to swap out the rear shocks. We have new toe bolts and stuff like that for this because the ones that are in here originally, like I said, the car's from Chicago, is all rusted out. They can't even loosen them to do an alignment. So we'll see if we want to do that. That just implies that Lily's gonna have to go get a alignment sometime this week, so we'll see if it's worth it or not right now. On top of that, we got to change the oil on the Audi because I've been driving it daily, and if we have any more time, we'll do some more stuff, little niddly bits for the Audi that need to get done. Let's knock this out. While the cars are both warming up, I'm just gonna run, grab the jack, and whip out the rear wheels, just so that we have enough space to put on those new shocks. Should be pretty easy. It's just 2 bolts and it's really easy access. So we'll just knock those out while the cars are still warming up, and then we'll drain the oil and all that good stuff. A little surface rust from the humidity, but not too big of a deal. From the first time that we did all the work with the suspension, when we swapped out springs, brake lines and everything, we didn't get to changing out the rear shocks because they actually showed up 4 months after we ordered them and 2 months after we already did the initial maintenance on them. A lot of guys have been asking the part numbers for them. I checked and I can't even find them anywhere, but they are a 24-282901, and the fronts are something else. I'll put it in the link in the description so you guys can see if you can find them and track them down. Rock Auto used to have them. They don't have them anymore. Maybe you guys will have better luck somewhere else. Luckily on here it's pretty easy. We got a bolt up at the top and a nut and bolt down at the bottom. So these are the ones that supposedly compensate for extra load and stuff like that. So they'll pop back up. They're not super gone, but if we're gonna do the maintenance on the whole car, it's got like 115,000 miles or so. And we already upgraded the ones in the front. Might as well do the ones in the back as well. And like all other parts, just make sure that you guys kind of put them side by side. Make sure they look like they're gonna fit. And if they don't, then we spent the $240-ish to test it for you. But I think they'll be good. They look, other than the bushings up at the top, they look like they're gonna fit perfect. So it's the next day. Last night did not go quite as planned. I called the place where I do my alignments at and I asked them, I said, hey, I got these 2 camber bolts that are all rusted out. Last time you guys couldn't do the alignment because they were all rusted out and stuff like that. You were afraid to break them loose. If I got the bolts and everything, would you guys be able to swap them out next time you do the alignment? They quoted me something like $700 to replace them because either 1, they were trying to upsell me, or 2, I don't know. But so I decided I'm gonna rip them out. I'm gonna pull them out. They're all rusted through and everything, so I had to cut them out. I had to cut them out of the control arm, and I'll show you guys that in a second. I tried with the air hammer and everything. Those they would not come out of the bushings, and I'll show you guys that in a second. So online, I thought this was going to be a one-day thing, but online I ended up ordering 2 new control arms, which with the bolts straight from the dealership, $120-ish, and then 2 control arms at 120 bucks a piece. What is that? 360 bucks, half the price of what the place quoted me anyway. So then I'll just swap them over and run in and do the alignment. Luckily for us, I paid extra at the beginning to have the lifetime alignments on it, so we're good to go as soon as we get those bolts replaced. That'll be in a couple of days. They're supposed to come in, so as soon as those come in, then we'll finish up. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll jump on the other side, make sure I cut that control arm out, and I swap out the shock while we're at it. First though, while the oil drains in the Audi, I'll let that drain out again. I had to use it to run to the store to grab the new air hammer. So I'll let the oil drain out of the Audi, and while that's happening, I will pull out this control arm and replace the shock absorber. Shock absorber is the same as on the other side, 2 bolts, one at the top and one at the bottom, and then the lower control arm has this nut and bolt that go through here, and then that one up there. We're actually going to end up, after dropping this down, after it just drops down, we'll come in there with a fresh grinder blade so that it reaches up in between those and cuts the bolts out. This will then fall out all together and just have it ready so that when the new control arms come in, we'll just swap them out. Maybe this is bad, but one thing I like to do with really rusty hardware that I'm going to be reusing is, once I have it off, especially like a nut and bolt combo, I'll run it in with the impact just to clean off those threads. Obviously not to the point where it'll break. But just to clean them off so that when you have to go put them back in, you can easily use your fingers to retighten them. So before I go cutting everything off, I'm going to try to heat up this nut and see if I can break it loose. And then I'll try the air hammer on this side again. Maybe I'll have some luck. When we did the suspension on the other side, some of the lower bolts were seized. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. If not, then I'll just go ahead and cut everything off. So the heat helped with breaking that nut loose, but when I went in to hit it with the air hammer, all it did was pretty much hammer a hole into the actual bolt without it breaking. It didn't budge at all, like nothing. And I sat there for a good while. I mean, literally the air chisel carved a hole into the end of the bolt. So now I'm just gonna grab the grinder and cut it out. Finally got them cut off there. Had to pretty much grind off one side just so I can pry it out in one way or another. I tried to hammer it out through, but it's the same deal. It ain't going nowhere. The usual process from here on is probably to swap out the bushings, but considering A new one's only 120 bucks and you have to go through the whole process. I'm just gonna swap out the whole control arm. And just so, if you guys don't believe me, I tried with that hammer and it just ain't doing it. It's literally just drilling a hole with a chisel. It ain't working. So 2 weeks, one holiday, 2 blizzards and an ice storm later. Parts are in and we're back to working on the car. We got the new control arms. They're identical from both sides, so they're going to be the same part numbers for both sides. All we have to do is take the shrouding off of our old ones and put them on the new ones. Then I also got a new axle for the back side over here because I noticed that the boot was all torn up. So we're going to replace that first and then throw the control arms on. I don't know if you guys do this, but if I know that I'm not going to be using any of the tools that I've just used on one of the projects, and I know that the car's not going to go anywhere, I just throw everything in the trunk, and that way the same tools that I used for either the R&R process or otherwise is already here, and then I don't have to go chase it back into the garage or whatever. The top, the side one, and we'll see if this trailing arm is going to give us enough room to wiggle it back and forth. Pretty much everything that I've already just done earlier, I got to redo so we can get that top, so we can get that axle out. So it's out of the hub. Now hopefully it just can slide out of the diff case. You know how I do. I just clean it. Hold on. No, hold on. I didn't put the thing. Hand me the spring. For those of you guys wondering, these are stock 2016 plus RX 350 wheels. They are a 20x8 plus 40, and obviously in the same 5x 114.3 bolt pattern, and they fit perfect. I would like them to kind of come offset a little bit more, so maybe in the future we'll put on some 20-ish millimeter spacers, but till then they work perfect. And it is the stock tire size. Well, I mean, the overall diameter is the same for the 2012s, but it's a, if I can see it over here, it is a Pilot Sport 4S for SUV, and I think it's a 245 50/20 or 245 45/20, one or the other. I'll get a better shot later.